talking about beginning again today, and that inevitably makes me think of things from my past. So I connect to Tim Atkins, talk about Oxbow Lakes. I lived and worked in Natchez, Mississippi for a time earlier in my adulthood. A lot of Oxbow Lakes, a lot of fishing, a lot of flooding, all sorts of stuff going on there. One of the most interesting things I learned about the river and wildlife and the whole thing there was when I was talking to a game warden, and he had talked about a time when he saw a black bear swimming across the Mississippi. And you have to understand that at Natchez, the Mississippi is almost a mile wide. And it's flowing at a pretty good rate, especially during the flood season. And I thought, I didn't know that bears could swim a mile. And I said this to him, and he said, oh yeah, that's nothing for them. That's nothing at all. I'm not terrified of bears. That's not one of my fears, but I know people who are, and I have to imagine if you are, that's got to be a terrifying thought. Like nothing can stop bears, not even a mile worth of muddy flowing water. So I think of Oxbow Lakes. I think, too, of the battles we're having all over the world for water. To have water at all, to have clean water. Some 8 years ago, my wife, who many of you know is also a UU minister, at the time we were serving a church together, and she went to South Dakota to support protesters in their fight against an oil pipeline. You might remember this. Standing Rock. It was a fight they ultimately lost. That pipeline now exists. It is sending oil. Their concern was that the oil pipeline crosses important water sources, including for their people, members of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And the thing they said over and over again is that water is life. And I think about that a lot. To date, we know of no life form that does not depend utterly on water for existence. And so all life depends on this funny little molecule, 2 atoms of hydrogen joined by 1 atom of oxygen. I got that right? I said that backwards once and everyone quickly corrected me. Okay. It's a really strange molecule. I don't know if you know much about water. I mean, you probably know something about water, but it's precious because of its unique properties. We were talking about this morning, that water is incredibly corrosive. And that's the negative way of putting it. The positive way to say is that it can make a solution of anything. That is, you can dissolve almost anything in water, which is really useful, particularly if you're making, say, sweet tea. It's bad if it's destroying your pipes over time, of course, because it's trying to make those pipes part of itself. It's a great thing, though. It's found in liquid form across virtually the entire planet. Water facilitates, through that property of dissolving things, all sorts of the myriad chemical reaction that all bodies need to survive. The one way to put it that I find amazing is that if you were in the situation where you had to, and I hope you never are, you can survive for maybe 3 weeks, give or take, without food. But without water, you're not going to make it much past 3 days. Water is absolutely essential to our lives. And yet, of course, its very qualities, its very commonness lead us to abuse it. We pollute it, we overuse it in areas where it is scarce. We make changes to the terrain so that suddenly we're flooded. To give one example, on our nation's southern border, our government is trying to criminalize water. That is, it has prosecuted people for the crime of leaving jugs of water in the desert for migrants to drink as they cross the border, providing humanitarian aid a crime. And though I'm not trying to anthropomorphize water too much, but I will a little bit here for a second, part of me part of me tends to imagine that we've abused our environment so much that water is fighting back, that sea levels are rising and hurricanes are worse before and flooding is all over the place, it seems like. And in areas where none of those are a problem, suddenly there's not enough water. And so sometimes I look at all of this situation all over the planet and think that it's hard to find hope. Because water is life, and without it in roughly the right proportions, we die. But the hope I find, of course, is that it's never too late. It's not too late. It's not too late to do something, at least. Dramatic change will be needed to avoid or ease the worst effects of climate change, and there's some things we won't be able to do anything about. You heard about it in the announcements, though, and I want to invite you again to attend the Climate Justice Revival here on September 29th. There's a lot more information about that in our communications, because it's time for all of us, including myself, for sure, to work through the overwhelm and instead focus on what we can each accomplish to ease the climate crisis our planet is experiencing. So come to that. We'll learn about the changes we can make in our own lives and in the lives of our entire world. Because again, the good news is that it's never too late to do something. As we heard about in our story today, water cycles over and over through our world. And just so, we have a chance every day, every month, every year to start a new cycle for ourselves. Perhaps to decrease pollution or to stop overuse of water, to slow the devastating effects of climate change. Perhaps to right some of the weather patterns that are changing in often deadly ways. To do something about sea level rise, which puts millions of people at danger of losing their homes and lives. We have the chance to begin again anew, just as we do every year in our congregation today. To start a new year, to wipe the slate clean as best we can, and to choose to move forward once again with the people around us, creating a community of love and support and justice for all. Again, I think of our story today that Margaret told so well of the water cycle. Water evaporates into the air. It forms clouds and fog and ultimately rain. It covers the ground. It feeds plants and animals. It joins together in streams and ponds and oxbow lakes and rivers, and ultimately goes once again to the ocean or back into the air again, or both. The water we have has gone through this cycle countless times in the history of our planet, many, many, many times just in our own lifetimes. Each time is a little renewal, a chance to begin again. Today we've joined our waters together, waters perhaps from our sink or our backyards, our vacations, from places we love. All these living waters, all one, all make life possible. And so may these waters sustain our common life. May they feed our bodies, provide us food, the plants and animals around us. May this water continue to fill our lakes, streams, bays, and oceans with its life-giving presence. Because water is life, so may each of us support life. So may it be.